Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elisabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza and Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. It is time for another Q and cake. I can't believe that we're on, I think it is 32 now. So we have so many of these because if we answer 5 questions for each one, we've answered at least like 150 questions, I would think,
that's
or something like that. Yeah, so I was just telling Holly, because everyone say hello to Holly. She is back again today.
Hi.
I know it's so funny because it's like all of these are like dispersed with some of the recordings that we've made before Cami was on maternity leave. So I was like being like, oh yeah, and Holly's here.
Instead of like, surprise, it's a different voice. What podcast am I listening to?
But I'm especially excited because I pulled some questions that we've answered some variation of before. Like I know they've come up, and I mean at a certain point when you've answered 150 questions, there's going to be some duplicates. So I'm excited because they're different. They're new questions, but they might be some variation of what someone's asked before. But the great thing is that Holly might have different input than maybe Cami and I did. And who knows, maybe my mind has changed since I last answered this. So
oh yeah, that's true. Things change so much in your business, like from month to month. It could be a totally different response.
I know. So let's go ahead and get started. I will read the first one, and then Holly, you can answer first.
Okay, perfect.
All right, this is from Katya of Anello Calligraphy. And she says, hi, ladies, love the podcast. As someone who is slowly making the transition to full-time, I was wondering how you deal with actually paying yourselves. I'm assuming that you don't pay yourselves 100% of your profits each order or each job, I guess you would say. Do you have a set salary you pay yourself, or do you take a certain percentage off, etc.? I know to keep my business finances separate. I'm just not sure how I actually get paid personally. Thanks so much for taking the time to consider this question.
That is a great question. I think everybody struggles with that when they start their business. Like if you're trying to transition into full-time, like how do you know that you're going to make enough money to pay yourself to actually quit your full-time job and do your creative side hustle or side business full-time? So like trying to think, when I was transitioning to full-time, it wasn't like a choice. It was something I just had to do. So like, I just kind of like had to take any profit that I made and put that towards bills. And that was for like the first few months where I was just kind of like struggling a little bit and like trying to make ends meet. Luckily, I have a wonderful husband who makes way more money than I do. So he can pay more bills than I do. But now it's a little bit easier. Now I just kind of pay myself whatever my bills are for the month. That's just what I pay myself.
Okay.
That's just, I think, the setup that my husband and I have. Like he pays XYZ bills, and then I pay like my own personal bills and whatever else I need to pay. So it kind of fluctuates. Like I think last month I paid myself way less than I normally do. Mm-hmm. It just depends totally. It's all like what's best for you and your business, I think. Mm-hmm. Do you agree, Elisabeth, or do you pay yourself like a set amount?
It fluctuates what that like set amount is.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have that kind of number in my head of like, you know, if I could take like an owner's draw, like to use kind of the right terminology, because yeah, that's what trips people up is it's as simple as transferring money from your business bank account to your personal bank account.
Yep.
Ta-da! You paid yourself.
Done.
And that used to really trip me up because I'm like, wait, what do you mean? I just like push this money over and it's like mine and it's cool, you know?
Yeah.
Which is why you have to like understand like what Holly was saying, like your finances super well. And that makes sense too, that you would make your paycheck what I need to like cover my bills, cover my lifestyle. And you can base your number off of that. It was a little less last month. But for me, I actually kind of ended up I think last year was the first year that I kind of moved to paying myself on a monthly basis. For a long time, I was just trying to do it bi-weekly to kind of keep myself on track. I kind of tried to line it up with like when my husband's check was coming through, I would kind of try to do it on the same day.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this just feels like too frequent. I know that sounds silly to say with like money. Like you're like, money could never be too frequent. What are you talking about?
Every 5 minutes, please. I'd like some money to fall from the sky.
But it just made more sense for me to move like a little bigger chunk of money on a monthly basis rather than like dividing it up into like smaller subsets or like smaller owner's draw for myself. So I tried to keep it like relatively similar each month, like knowing that I'll have the income to continue to pay myself at that level. But there's definitely been months where it has been smaller, you know, like maybe I take like $500, but like the month before was like $3,000. And so that's the fun thing of being like your own business owner is like Will and I talk about that all the time. It really feels like such a roller coaster. But part of what I do too is like, you know, when I do some bigger projects and like, let's say you get a big payment all at once, I never pay myself out like immediately. I try to stretch that out and like ration it over the months, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not like, I'm taking all 10,000 of that. It's like, no, I'll use that 10,000 over the next months to continue to like pay myself out once expenses in the business have been taken care of and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, that really is what it comes down to as being an entrepreneur is kind of like your personal finances is like you take care of all the bills that you have to like live off of. Like, oh, I got to buy groceries. I got to get gas for the car, or I have to pay my mortgage, or I have to pay my rent or whatever. And then everything else that's left over is like happy fun time. But like with your business, it's like, oh, I have to pay taxes. I have to pay employees if you have them. I have to pay monthly subscription fees. I have to pay for supplies. And then everything else is kind of like free game. And you get to decide how you want to ration that out to yourself. Like, I personally like to have a huge nest egg to like, you know, dip into if I need to at any point. So I don't pay myself a lot for that reason. I like to have more freedom with my business and have more like cash basically available on hand. Yeah. But you don't have to run your business that way.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like you could literally be like dead even every month if you want. But I'm the same where like my cushion is like, it's currently like more than 20 grand. I'll just put it out there, like to have in my business account because like, let's say that there's a huge dry spell for a long time. Then it's like, that gives me the ability to still take some of that like as a paycheck or like maybe there's like a really cool course I want to sign up for, you know, like it would be like a business expense. I don't know about you, Holly, but I do all my business expense transactions are through my credit card.
Yeah, me too.
And then I just like pay those off on a monthly basis because like why not get the points while you're doing your business like, stuff?
I'm getting a new computer with all the points that I have accumulated over the last year. So I mean, yes, like use your credit card for that if you can. But only if you pay it off like every month. Otherwise it's not worth it.
I literally have it like set so it's auto pay. So it just like pays it off the statement every month so that I don't have interest or other things building up. And then, as long as you're like watching your credit card balance along with like your bank balance and all of that, you know, that's why bookkeeping system is helpful.
QuickBooks, woo!
Yeah, I use GoDaddy bookkeeping because I'm a simpleton.
Wait, I thought you didn't you do a bunch of stuff with QuickBooks?
I know I did for a long time. It was QuickBooks Self-Employed.
Okay.
Well, nothing like really happened. My relationship with them was great, but then like Cammie showed me GoDaddy bookkeeping, and because it syncs directly with Stripe, it kind of changed my entire life because that was like a really big thing that deterred me on QuickBooks Self-Employed. It was like, or just QuickBooks in general. It was very hard to sync up all of those transactions for them to just like show up in your system. So yeah, I know. I was like kind of sad. But I would say that like GoDaddy is very great for if you have your transactions are relatively simple. You know, like I work with like a few clients a year now. There's like not a ton of money coming in and out. QuickBooks makes a lot of sense for you, Holly, and for like Cammie, because once you get into like inventory, cost of goods sold, so much changes about your financial situation and it has to be a lot more detailed. So
I have to say, I love where this conversation like ended up because
I know we didn't start there.
no, but I love it because I think that all kind of rolls into that question. Like you have to have a good overview of your finances in order to know how much to pay yourself. And it's just kind of like that, like one thing requires another. Like I can't answer this question for you unless I tell you about all these other things too. So like know all of these things, have a good pulse, a finger on the pulse of your business.
Yeah.
It's like,
and ultimately, if we want to like give a really simple, easy answer, it's probably safe for you to take 30% of what you bring in and pay yourself with that. Because then you have another 30% that's taxes. And then you have another, let's see, math is hard, Holly. That leaves us with like 40% that would be expenses, overhead. If you're running product business, your margins get smaller. And so it kind of depends. Or for me, I'm running a service-based business and now my margins are bigger. And but you could probably safely take like 20 to 30% for sure when you get paid on a job and be safe. Like you're not gonna, bankrupt yourself doing that, hopefully. But you got to know your numbers. Like you got to know, because you could be, you could book a $2,500 invitation suite and you spend all of that on your
supplies and stuff. Yeah. Pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah. And in that situation, you're not charging enough. So
right.
It all comes back. It's all like very interconnected.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, I think we got that one.
Yeah.
Like we definitely nailed that question.
We nailed that above and beyond. We like 10 minutes of an answer for that one. So
good.
We're actually going to talk about more money stuff in the next one. So I'll let you read it.
Yeah. Okay. This is from Adrian of Homestead.inc. What payment options do you offer your stationery clients, and what does this look like on the back end? I want to be sensitive to the fact that there are many kinds of couples with many kinds of budgeting styles. Some like to throw everything on a dedicated credit card and rack up the rewards points. Woohoo! Woo. And others prefer to debit from a checking account or set up automatic bank draft and know they're only spending money that they have. With credit cards and I always say this wrong. AHC banks, bank transfers in particular, there are two very different processing fees associated with each payment type, 2.9% versus 0.8%. I'm so impressed that you wrote that, Adrian.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm struggling to figure out the best way to go about offering multiple options while fairly accounting for the associated fees tied to each method. If you offer multiple options, do you consider processing fees the cost of doing business, regardless of how a client chooses to go about payment? Or have you found a way to account for the differences in cost in the billing process? That was a nice long question. Lots to say.
It was written, but it was also written so well.
So well.
Like as you were reading it, I was like, oh, it's like nice to listen to this question because it was like there's a lot, but it was like also very like detailed and specific about why you were asking. So thank you so much for submitting that, Adrian. We'll see if we can do it justice.
Yes. Elizabeth, tell us what you think about that.
Oh man. Okay. I do have like a lot of thoughts because I'll start with my first thought is that I'm glad that at least you're already in the mindset of like transaction fees exist. There's not much of a way you can go about to avoid them because I get really like frustrated talking to people sometimes and they're like, I only take check or I only do this or I only do that. And I'm like, you're slowing down your business and like inhibiting yourself to a degree while you're trying to like navigate this aspect of transaction fees, which in reality is like never going to go away. So like every time Cammie and I take a credit card payment from one of you guys for like the A to Z directory, there's like a fee for member space for that. And there's a Stripe fee for that, like the credit card fee. And like, it is kind of one of those like costs of doing business. It counts as an expense. So let that at least be reassuring is that does count as a business expense. Yeah. And that portion is a write-off, but it's very true that you have to be accounting for that. And I would say because normally the transaction fee that's highest is about that 3%, I don't think you tend to have anything that's higher than that on credit card transactions. I would say go ahead and review your prices and just make sure that that extra 3, maybe even make it 5% is like built into what you're charging right now, so that you know that if they choose that option, that that will be covered, that you have prepared for that essentially for them to pay that way, rather than like charging what you're charging now. And then you're kind of like, oh, there's that extra cost being taken out, you know? But the important thing is, like Holly and I said in the question before, like knowing your numbers, understanding your numbers. It does get painful for sure as they get close to, you know, if they're making a several $1,000 payment, like that 3% can really be like a gut punch. So yeah, I would say for me, it also kind of plays in a little bit too to like how much they are paying, because I do try to, at least with imitation suites, I try to encourage bank payments a lot of the time if I could, just because that was a bigger amount. So that's kind of like my thoughts on that, I guess. Like it's just never going away.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I know that different states have different laws regarding this, but in some states you can waive the transaction fee if people pay cash, I believe is what it is. And you can kind of like add that on to your invoice, like the transaction fee. Whereas in other states, it's illegal to do that. Like that's just included. You can't waive that. Like that's just a thing that happens. It's kind of like tax, you know, like you just can't get rid of tax.
Yeah.
But
you mean like you can't pass that fee on to the client.
Right. Yes. Sorry. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. But I know what we do here at Sablewood is we usually take credit card payments, or I do, I should say. But if somebody wants to pay with a bank transfer or with a check, then I give them a discount. So I take off 1.5% of their total invoice. That way I'm still covered for basically like I bake in the transaction fee into my pricing. So if they pay by check, then I still get some of that extra money, but I've also saved them some money. And I know that in some places, like you're not supposed to do that. So like check with your local laws, your state laws, and make sure that that's okay. But it depends on how you word it too. Like if it's a discount, that's cool. If you're saying like, I'll waive the transaction fee, like that's not cool.
Yeah, right.
But I think what you said is perfect. Like the transaction fees and the processing fees and all of that, that's just a cost of doing business. You just have to make your peace with that and like kind of move on. But if you get a lot of orders that are like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, you can request that bank transfers or checks are your only accepted methods of payment. And if you have a transaction for less than $2,000, then you accept credit card. Like that's definitely a thing that you can do. It just, again, it depends on how you want to run your business and how much extra effort you want to put into like every transaction that comes across your desk. For me, it's like easiest to accept a credit card. Like you said, Elisabeth, like it's faster. I don't have to wait for your check to come in the mail. I don't have to like walk you through how to make a bank transfer. You know, it's a lot of extra work. So
luckily,
I'm down with the credit card fees.
Remind me, okay, are you Dubsado or Honeybook?
Dubsado.
Yeah, okay, I thought so, because luckily they've made their like e-credit or e-check. There are so many names that it goes by. They have made their like e-check option relatively simple, I think, for people to figure out, because I got to a stage where I would just like uncheck the other options and that would be the only one available. And I would be like, the preferred method of payment is this, but if you prefer something else, like let me know and I can shift,
figure something out.
change the invoice or uncheck such and such options or whatever, or recheck them so that they can use them. So I really like that about Dubsado, because it's like each individual invoice you're sending for each client, you can change like the methods of payment that are allowed. I think they also have like PayPal in there and stuff like that too.
Which never with the PayPal.
Yeah. PayPal is an interesting one. And I never had that synced up either. They will almost always side with the customer if there's a dispute.
Yeah.
Not that they don't do a good job of moving money around. That's not the problem. It's like, not that you wouldn't get the money. It's just if someone wants the money back, like your chances of having that taken are
much
higher.
Oh, yeah. yeah, even with proof of like photos and emails and stuff like that, it's still very customer focused, I would say.
Yep.
So yeah, it's
and I
rough.
can say that the 2 times that we have had a dispute on Biz Birthday Bash through Stripe, we've won both of those disputes because we had the proper documentation.
Nice.
So that's always a fun conversation.
Yeah, I bet. Oh no.
Of like, well, one of them was like a genuine mix-up. It was like them and their husband were going through their books and they didn't recognize a transaction. So they disputed it when they paid for the summit, and because it said Biz Birthday Bash and they weren't familiar with us. And I was like, oh God, that hurts. And so then we figured it out and everything. And then the other one was also someone had been like recharged for another year. And then like, rather than asking us about it, because that'll happen occasionally, we can fix that on the back end relatively like easily. Like if you didn't mean for that to happen, not encouraging any of you listening to do that. But
not an invitation.
That's not an invitation, but it did get disputed. And I was like, oh man, like I wish you had emailed us and we could have fixed it for you. But those were situations where it was like, as a business, like we had to prove that we hadn't done anything wrong. It's not like we could be like, oh, we'll just let you dispute it and it'll be okay, because like Stripe can like close your account if people are like disputing your stuff too much and you don't have proper proof.
When my mom and I ran that paint and sip studio back in Florida, we had a bar there because people need to drink while they paint, I guess.
Obviously.
And one of our customers was in and she ordered like 2 drinks or something and she left a tip. And the next day we got a notification that the charge was being disputed. And we were like, what? Like, you were here last night. You had 2 drinks. You weren't drunk. What happened? And we got in touch with her and she was like, oh no, like we're definitely disputing this charge. We don't want to pay it. And we had the receipt with the signature and the tip to prove it. And like, that was it. It was like case closed. So like having that documentation is so important. Even with invitations, like I know that that's tough, but you can take pictures of like the box of invites before they go out. You can take, video of you putting everything in to the box. You can like screenshot your emails if you ever come across any problems with disputing charges from your clients. So yeah, records. No phone calls, just emails.
Just emails. Everything in writing is so important. Yep. It's so important. Once again, we took like a little bit of like a turn on this question, but also always things that are important to be thinking about, mainly because we brought up PayPal and then that was like a whole...
Yeah, it was a bit of a detour.
Sidebar.
Got lost. We're back. We've come back.
But overall, like the answer for this, I think, is like relatively simple and straightforward of like cost of business and to account for that. And Holly gave some great advice. So, okay, I will read the next one from Olivia at trout.designs. Hi, Elisabeth. I noticed on your Instagram stories, I promise I'm not a creep, LOL. Which you guys are so funny because like my Instagram stories are public. And so anybody's allowed to watch them.
Anybody's allowed to watch them. I love that.
You're free to watch them. She said, I noticed you were putting together portfolios to send to wedding planners. I'm considering doing the same. Just curious if the strategy was helpful in gaining more clients and building the planner to stationer relationship. So the fun part about this question is it was from early 2020 because I was still kind of like doing invitation stuff at that time. And that was like, I was doing that a lot in like the 2 months of 2020 leading up to all the COVID shutdowns. So I'm glad that you saw this on my stories. I just like never answered it because obviously there was like a little bit of like bitterness there. Yeah. But I will say that I thought starting to do that, like my pivot towards trying to partner with wedding planners was beneficial. Not necessarily to me, but friends who I'm referring now, because literally this is so funny. Like I had certain planners come back to me. Everyone kind of says that there's like an 18-month rule. Like you start like nurturing somebody and then it's kind of within like an 18-month time frame that they will have the right client or they will be coming back to you.
Oh.
Like things like they take time. And I've had experiences like that a couple of times. And I was pretty much like on the dot for this situation is that a year and a half later, so like mid 2021, and of course we had all the COVID issues. Like one of the wedding planners came back to me and was like, I've been keeping you in mind. I would love to have you like design this invitation suite. And I was like, well, this is kind of like awkward because like not really doing this anymore. But here's like a good friend of mine who I think would like fit your style great. She's here in Georgia as well. And then since then, that planner has continued to like, my friend is like that planner's like go-to now. So I know that it worked because like I could have been that person had I still been in that spot taking more invitations. But I'm very glad that I was able to like hand that over to a friend that I trusted. So
yeah,
it did
awesome.
work.
It would have worked for you had you accepted invitation work. So
yeah, it just takes longer than you would think. It's not going to be like, they're not going to be like a month later, I have the perfect client for you. It's a lot of like nurturing and walking through different things and following up and staying in touch.
Networking.
Yes, networking. All the fun networking things. Was that what your episode was about, Holly?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you built your business after moving. So we talked about all the networking things.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that is a perfect way to network for shy people, I think, is to send out some sort of portfolio or booklet or pricing guide or something to planners, because then they have something physical to hold on to and reference, which is so great. Instead of remembering like, oh, who do I follow on Instagram that does great invitations, or what website did I go to that was so pretty? You know, now they have like, even if it's just like a line sheet, like a single sheet of here's my pricing or here's some pictures of things that I've done. It's so great to have that in their hands. Yep.
It makes a big difference.
It does.
So that is 2 years too late. But Olivia, if you're still listening, I finally answered your question.
Oh my gosh. Poor
so
Olivia.
Sorry.
She's like, yeah, Elisabeth, I already did that. It was great.
Yeah, I know. And now I'm like, I wonder what Olivia's up to 2 years later.
Olivia, check back in and let us know.
Yes, please. I should really like email these people because they have to drop their emails in when they submit a Q&A. And that's something that I wish that I was better at, that I'm not, is like each week emailing people to let them know like, hey, your question was answered. And I guess I just hope like people miraculously find it. So
you just hope they listen.
Whoops. Okay. I think we're ready for the next one.
Okay. The next question is from Alexandra of Ladybird Paper Co., which I just love. What a cute name. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. I can't tell you how much invaluable advice from your podcast has positively impacted my business, and I'm so grateful. Something I really struggle with is collecting reviews from custom wedding invitation clients. They will gush over how much they love their invites in an email to me, but getting someone to post a review on the internet for the world to see is next to impossible. I include links, but it still doesn't seem to help. Maybe I'm not doing it at the right point in time. Any tips on best practices for collecting reviews for custom wedding invitations?
I have lots of thoughts on this, but I've like kind of answered this before, so I feel like I want you to answer first.
You know, I was reading over this question and I don't really have a great answer either. Well, I don't really have a great answer, full stop. It depends on the client for me. Some clients will so I guess I should go through my process a little bit. Just like backtrack a little bit. So after I mail out invitations for my clients, because I don't send the invitations directly to them to mail, I mail them for them. After I've sent out like their extras to them so they can see them in person, I ask if they can write me a review. And I do include links in the emails that I send. It's to, I think, like Google and The Knot, which is now The Knot and Wedding Wire. And then I think there used to be a third one, but now it's just like Google and The Knot. And it takes them directly to my like profile page so that they don't get lost trying to like find me on the Knot or Google or anything like that to leave a review. And I would say like 2 times out of 10, so like 1 in 5 times, it actually works and they actually leave a review. I don't know why this is. I've tried lots of different ways of doing this. I've included like questions to ask yourself when writing a review. Like, you know, what did your guests say to you about the invitations when they received them? Or like, what was your first impression when you saw the invitations? Or what was your favorite part of the process? And like, that didn't help.
Yeah.
Not including questions at all doesn't help. It's just, people are very busy. They're very busy wedding planning. We, unfortunately, when we send out invitations, come at them, you know, 3 months out from their wedding. That's like when we're sending requests for reviews. That's like go time for weddings. They are answering a lot of emails. They're doing like tastings for their caterers. They're probably doing last dress fittings. They're doing tux fittings. They're doing all of those last minute things that have been piling up that they've been ignoring. So we're not really high up on their priority list anymore. And I think that the best way, the next way at least that I'm going to try to get reviews is to just like hammer them. Like, you write a review, I send you a request like right after I mail your invites. I send another request like 2 weeks later. I send one like right after you get married. And then I send one like 2 months after you get married. Like, try to hit them at all of the points within like 6 months of completing their invitations and see what's the best. And it's going to be different for everybody.
I feel like I always lost them if I waited till after the wedding. Because then it's like they're starting their new life, and sometimes there's a new house, and sometimes, you know, because then things like speed up in a different way for them, depending. But I never tried that one a ton, mainly because after my first time of trying to do that and having no success, I was like, well, screw that, because I put in so much work on that invitation suite, and I was so proud of it, and like really bummed that I couldn't have her write something like official for me.
Yeah.
Something that I've had people do to me before is to be like, hey, you said this, and this in your emails. Are you okay if I take that to put that on like my portfolio page of my website? Is it all right if I'm using those words you've said before previously in your emails? That's not going to be obviously through like Google or Facebook or any of the places where people leave Wedding Wire, you know, where they would leave their own written reviews. But then at least you have something from them, like with their permission, that can kind of like back up the work that you have done. So
yeah,
I always tried to ask, like when I was kind of like around the time of like sending the invitations, because there's like a lot of excitement and people are getting them. As long as nothing majorly goes wrong with the mailing process, like you should be, you know, like fine. So yeah, it's hard because you can't force anybody to do that.
Right. Yeah, but I do really like that suggestion of writing, getting them to write something, or like taking some of their previous words that they've said and saying like, hey, can I put this on my website, or can I put this somewhere else that I can control? And maybe you could put a picture of the invitations you designed for them, like next to that quote, or something like that. And oftentimes that's even more powerful than a review that's on Google or the Knot, because like you now have something to show the potential clients that matches up with that person's review. So they can see like, oh, wow, yeah, that is absolutely gorgeous. I'm sure that was amazing to work with Elisabeth on that invitation suite. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put too much stock in reviews, honestly, but they are really great social proof to have on your website for sure.
Yeah, definitely great to have. And I've even thought before about like, if you have enough blurbs from things they've said in emails that they're happy about, you can like put together a little paragraph and be like, is there any way, like these are your own words, like put in one place, would you be willing to copy and paste this into boom, boom, and boom, you know, like verify that you agree with it and all that stuff. But it is pulled from things that you had like previously said, essentially. So
yeah, I feel like, so I read a lot of advice columns because I just really enjoy them. But like the way that people ask questions in those, like nobody writes like that. not like the average person that's writing in. So clearly that like advice columnist has restructured that question to make it more like fun and easy to read or whatever, and has asked them like, can I change the wording of this question? Or maybe they didn't. I don't know. Maybe they just rewrote it and didn't say anything to anybody. But like that, nobody ever said that you can't do something like that. You can always do that sort of thing as long as you ask permission.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I'm going to have to try that. That's a great idea.
Try it. Yeah. Because then it's like you've done pretty much all the work for them. Like things I've already said. And then they need to take just a little bit of time, like a few minutes to like click those links and put it in the spot and hit submit. So
yeah, no, it's very true. And then sometimes you'll get clients like the one that I just got recently. I just remembered this. I did her wedding in August of last year, and she just wrote me a review like last month. She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Life got away from me. Here's like 4 reviews that I wrote on different platforms. And I was like, I sent that email in like May or June. So like miracles can happen, everybody.
Wow.
Just like send the email out.
Send it. And I definitely agree about following up like 2-3 times at the least. Like you have to follow up. That stuff just gets like buried in their email inbox, and bringing it back to their attention. A lot of times they'll be like, I've been meaning to do it, and thank you so much like for the reminder. It's like helpful to put it back in front of their face. Our email inboxes are one of the few things not controlled by an algorithm anymore, you guys. That's why they're so valuable.
Oh my gosh. Knock on wood. I was looking around desperately for wood, and I have none in here. That's so weird. Well, none that I can reach. But you can also send out a follow-up email on their anniversary, which I found to be really great. I check in and I say like, happy anniversary. So excited for you guys. I bet a lot has happened. If it's really like to get new projects from them, but it's also a great time to say like, if you haven't written a review, it'd be so awesome. Like, I really would love to hear from you. And I think I've gotten 1 or 2 hits from that over the years. So not a bunch, but it is like a year in the future. So they're kind of like, oh, invites, like, cool. That's so last year. We don't even think about those.
Cool.
So,
Okay.
All right.
We finished that one. Am I supposed to read this one? Oh yeah.
Yes. I did the last one.
Okay. This one I thought was like also like really fun. I know we've definitely never answered this before, and it was like a little more like outside of the box. So here we go. From Nancy at the Creative Resource. She said, I'm both a creator and a high school art teacher. I have a love for learning and creating, so that is why I'm not afraid to ask you to throw out into the part of the world that listens to your podcast. What do you wish you had learned in your high school art class? And what are the most valuable things you learned in high school art classes?
That's such a great question.
Yeah, and now I have to think back, like, however long it's been since I've been in high school. It's been a minute.
Right.
Because I started college, like, more than a decade ago now, so that's, like, wild.
I won't even say how long it's been since I was in high school.
You're not that much older than me.
When you say my 20-year high school reunion is coming up, like that hurts a little bit, Elisabeth. I'm an old person right now.
Fine. Doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way to me though. Like once you reach a certain age, like you just feel the same age as everybody. So
yep. I had to think about how old I was the other day. Like, wait, what year is it? When was I born? Okay.
The hard questions. Yeah.
It is
the
so
hard
tough.
questions.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
thinking back to high school. I think I
didn't
might
take
have
art
one.
in high school.
Oh, you didn't have any art classes?
No, I didn't. So I guess what are the most valuable things I learned? Like nothing. I wish I could learn everything.
Gosh.
Like I want to go and take all the art classes.
Wait, yeah. So let's go back then. Like what was the reason then? Was it not required by the school or like not something you were interested in at the time?
I was definitely interested in art, but art was like literally where all the weird kids hung out. And And like, not that I didn't like the weird kids, because I was kind of friends or like knew everybody, but I played golf in high school,
Okay.
the varsity team. And then I also did theater. So like, I don't really have a lot of extracurricular time to like
Yeah.
go do art classes, but I did take art in college, which
Okay.
was really great.
Oh,
But
well, I think we
totally
should
different
loop
than high
that
school.
in. I think we should loop that in too, though.
So high school and college. art
Yeah,
classes,
because I think like, so was that your degree in college or you took some classes?
Yeah, that was my second degree. When I went back to school for graphic design, I needed some extracurriculars. So I took an illustration class. Yeah, I took 2 semesters of like pencil sketching, really,
Okay.
which was really fun. And that's like mostly what I do today. So I guess it was kind of like a preface for like
Mhm.
future Holly. She's going to do like line illustrations.
Yeah. I know. I love
But
line
yeah.
illustration.
Oh, they're the best. So fun. But I really wanted to take like pottery and like,
Yeah,
is that
I
like
took
art? Or is
ceramics.
that,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the main ones I remember were actually in middle school when I did a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pottery work. I don't think I had another one in high school, mainly because I made a clay turtle that was a whistle, and freaking
Ah!
Greg, I'm pretty sure he broke it and wouldn't admit to it.
Whoa. Sounds
That
like
was
we
like
need to
a whole
unpack some
thing.
of that.
I
Oh
went to
my
like,
gosh.
he was like one of the kids that I went to school like literally from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Uh-huh.
So except that like there's people that you like know of, but you're never necessarily like friends with. And I just like
Yeah.
had this suspicion because he was kind of like a troublemaker that like he had done something with it to like mess with me, or like maybe my teacher had broken it when she was loading things into the kiln and didn't want to admit it. Like, because it was just like missing. It was just like gone. And I was so
What?
mad. And for some reason in my head, I was like, Greg did it.
Greg, wherever you
Gregory.
are, come clean. We need to know. Oh my gosh.
But that was middle school. And high school, the class that I remember most specifically for art, and it may have been the only art class I took, was acrylic painting.
Ooh.
And I think that the most valuable thing that I learned from that high school art class was to like basically to just like run with your ideas. So I don't remember that class being very like restrictive with what we had to paint, and that was something that was so nice. Like we didn't have a set syllabus of you have to create like XYZ project. I think we were kind of like working up towards one like big painting that we would kind of have at the end of the semester.
Yeah.
We might have done some things at the beginning that were kind of similar, like I think
stuff.
technique stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think we did like a sunset with like a shadow tree in the front of it, you
Ooh,
know?
So fancy.
But the painting that I did end up doing, I think was like at least 6 feet long and about 12 inches tall, because we like made our own canvas. So that was so cool.
Wow.
Like we were just like given a lot of ability to like make our own decisions as high school students. I think that was like really powerful, because more than anything, I hate being put into a box like ever. I don't handle that very well. And so that to this day, that painting still hangs up in my parents' hallway in my childhood home. And it was like a bunch of birds. I painted like 10 different birds sitting on
cool.
a power line.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I just had so much fun like painting each one. Each one had its own like little characteristics, and they were mostly like sparrows, but they all had like a different like subset of colors and stuff. So
yeah,
I just had a lot of freedom to do that. And I think that's like the perfect place to give students freedom is in an art class, because I feel like that's kind of like what that environment is for. So I think that is overall my biggest answer. Holly wishes that she had art classes, and then
yes,
that's what she wished she had learned, was that she at least wished that she had one. And I don't know if there's anything specific I would say that I wish I had learned.
Well, I would say like, I mean, I know that the art class I took in college was like, it's a drawing class. And so it's very like tailored to drawing. But I feel like if I would have taken a high school art class, I would have probably appreciated an exposure to a lot of different mediums. Like, I'm not saying like spend an entire, quarter or 9 weeks on like just oil painting and then another one on just watercolor. But like, it'd be really cool to learn different painting mediums, different types of ceramics or pottery styles, and like how to like do all of those things. Like so many different, there's so many different art mediums out there. Like don't just focus on one for an entire semester or 9 weeks or whatever. Like just kind of say like, what do you, every couple weeks or something, do something new and see what your students really enjoy. And, maybe if like one thing isn't really working out very well one year, you can just kind of like scrap that for the next year and fill it with something else. But I think having variety, like Elisabeth said, is like the best part of art class, is not tying or like putting people in a box. You want them to express themselves. And the best way to let them do that is to have lots of different applications available for them to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard.
Well, I like the idea because then if they learn a bunch of mediums and like maybe, maybe it's like reasonable to say we have time to teach 4 or 5 different mediums, then they could choose at the end what they want their final like piece that they're graded on to be. So then it's like, okay, I really gravitated towards pastels, or I really gravitated towards acrylic painting, and then being able to make a decision. There's just something empowering about being granted like decisions at a younger age, I think, in a time in life when so much is being decided for us.
Yeah. Well, you have to make all these other decisions, like what kind of career do I want to have? How am I going to do on my SATs? Like, yes. You need to have that freedom to express yourself.
And the space. My poor younger brother, well, he's the youngest of 5. I'm the oldest and he's the youngest. And he is he hates making decisions, and he's like I'm fundamentally actually bad at making decisions. And I was like, yeah, that's because we all decided for you your whole life.
You're the baby. Yep, you're used to being handed things. Like that's just how it works.
Exactly. So, well, I feel like we did all of those justice. I feel like that was good.
We went really in depth on a few of those. As
People
usual.
are like more in depth than I wanted. Like, Elisabeth, like, what is your deal with like Greg in your art class? Like,
oh my gosh, please track this guy down and ask him, like, listen, Greg, as an adult, can you please tell me like what happened? Get it off your chest.
Well, the funny thing is that like he probably wouldn't remember anymore, because like you remember things that are so personal to like you and your story, but I don't like remember, like sometimes my siblings will tell me a story about like me antagonizing them, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I have no recollection of it. So yeah.
Unlike my cousins, who will never let anybody forget anything. Just like you will never forget that you antagonized them. You're just like, remember that time when we were 8 and you played with my doll and you broke the head off? It's like,
and you're like, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is what you think about all day. Maybe Greg's like that. Maybe he feels like really bad and he's never been able to like express it to you.
Yeah,
he's afraid.
Maybe.
I don't know.
There were a couple people I got antagonized by in high school. And I think it was like mainly it was like guys who were like trying to flirt and were really bad at it. Like, I feel like that's just a thing when you're younger, that can like having an interest in you can like border on me also like being like mean.
Yeah. Like push girls down in the playground kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. So many other stories that I could talk about, but
that's a whole different episode.
Well, Cammie and I are hopefully going to do an episode of us reading entries from our childhood diaries at some point.
Yes.
Like, because that would be so funny and probably mortifying. I would probably be like dying. All right, y'all. We are going to let you go. We're going to officially wrap this one up today, but thank you so much for hanging out with both me and Holly.
Yeah.
And don't forget, because Holly is being our wonderful co-host while Cammie is on maternity leave, if you want to sign up for the A to Z directory, make sure you visit bizbirthdaybash.com/Holly, because that's where her specific link is and all her information as well for her resources and where she is on Instagram and all that great stuff. So you guys, for the most part, know the drill with like Q and Cake and asking other questions. That's on our website. And please leave us a rating and review on iTunes because we love them.
Yay.
That's all.
That's all.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys, seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best. You guys, everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.